Namaskar and welcome to this exciting show of Sathology Debunking Mythology. Today we are going to start with some number. Last time, if you heard on this particular topic, we talked about Yuga calculation, which is how the Indian cyclical ages are calculated, which is different than Gregorian calendars. Now, today we are going to start with the basis of that calculation. And we have an amazing guest, and like he's a scholar in this area. He has done a lot of personal research on these topics. And mind you that just because somebody gets a certificate from a Western university doesn't mean that he is a scholar. There are a lot of scholars who may not go to Western universities but have the same expertise, because that's the way the Indian education system is structured. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Vedveer Arya. Namaskar, Vedveer ji.
Namaste, Aditya ji.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Vedveer Aryaji, you were just now telling us about how the Dhanishta Nakshatra and how the astronomical calculations they point out an accurate timeline. But what we see in the Western calculations is like an imposed and assumed timelines. So what they've done, just like in any science experiment they do, if they don't have the proof, they set a date. They call it hypothesis. And some nowadays that hypothesis has become real. Just
Yes.
like the calculation of BC and AD is a hypothesis.
Yes.
And there is no, but the Indian system of calculating dates is so scientific. It based on astronomical coordinates and key happenings in the world.
Yes.
So what in what way this becomes more authentic than the Western assumptions, I would say.
Yes, Aditya ji. If you go into the history of Greece, initially they declared that Trojan War is just myth, and even the Homer, what he wrote is just in verse. So that's why that is not reliable. Similarly, in the context of Chinese history, they declared the history of Xia and Shang dynasties as mythical. But finally, they found a lot of archaeological evidence of Shang dynasty. Then later they accepted it. Yes, it's a history. The problem is, it's not, you can't just find some evidence in the archaeology itself, because in a continuous civilization, literature and the archaeoastronomical evidences recorded in the literature also very, very important evidences. Generally, the Western scholars have ignored those things. What the Indian scholars are trying to put forward is there is enormous evidence in the literature to prove that, because the Sanskrit language is like that. It's not like a natural language which changes every 500 or 600 years later, because Sanskrit was structured based on a very, very meticulously designed grammar. So that's why it's kind of a artificial language. The way programming languages have been evolved based on the syntax, similarly the Sanskrit evolved based on grammar. That's why the Sanskrit remained same for thousands of years. Even you read Ashoka and later inscriptions, the language is the same. The Prakrit language has not changed. Sanskrit language has not changed. Why so? Whether other languages, natural languages have changed. The basic, the beauty is the grammar, because Indians invented the grammar such. It's a kind of a syntax used in programming languages. So you have to follow syntax to get the desired results in the programming. Similarly, in the Sanskrit language was structured based on a grammar. This is the reason Indian Sanskrit literature, though thousands of years elapsed, but the language is the same. But you can't simply reject the antiquity of the references found in the literature. So they have to accept and understand this. The problem is, Westerner never ever thought that Sanskrit language can be such an ancient language.
No, absolutely right. See, the point is that they are, I've traveled to many of these. I live here and I go to these universities. Their assumptions are, even though they know, all of them know that it's a theory, it's an assumption, but
Yes.
they are trying to establish their identity, which is almost like a forced identity,
Yes.
and they're trying to validate themselves. Not
Yes.
just they're trying to prove you wrong, but they're just on their self trying to find out whether they actually have a history or not. Like one
Yes.
famous sage told them about, somebody asked him that what is the where is the what is the Western civilization according to you? And that
Yes.
visiting saint, and he said very clearly, he said, where is the Western civilization? He just asked them, where is the Western civilization? And
Yeah, that's
his words carry a
a
lot of
very
weight.
pertinent question.
Yeah, where is the Western civilization? Now, coming back to the today's point about nakshatra, and which you want to tell us that how the calculation of dates happen from the beginning itself.
Yes.
So you can show your slides, and we can discuss it over.
Yes, yes, yes. In the last 2, 3 talks, what I have presented for the Yuga chronology,
Correct.
how we can, during the Rigvedic period, it's only the Yuga duration was 5 years, then Chatur Yuga had 20 years, then that got evolved into a 1200 years, then 12,000. So based on that, I worked out the chronology. Indian chronology goes back to somewhere 16,000 BC. Now, in the last talk, what we have explored about the astronomical evidences in that. So I'll just summarize what I have presented in the last time. Just a minute. So initially, we generally start Indian history, because from the whatever the historical information is available, Sanskrit text, Brahma was the earliest person. Means Indians started recording the history starting from Brahma and his son Swayambhu Manu. So how to date him? So based on the references in the Vedic as well as the Ramayana and other texts, summer solstice was at Dhanishta Nakshatra during the lifetime of Brahma, because he was the first person who linked the calendar with the astronomical observation. So we Indians started their beginning of astronomical observation. That beginning took place somewhere 14,500 BC. Thereafter, we found the Brihaspati's birth date in the Rigveda as well as in Brahmanas. That Brihaspati Prathamam Jayamanaha Tishyam Nakshatram Abhisambabhuva. This clearly mentioned that when there was a Sun, Moon, and Jupiter's conjunction, as well as the winter solstice took place at a Tishya or Pushya Nakshatra. The date was somewhere 14,011 BC around. Thereafter, Vishwamitra, Mahabharata clearly mentions that Vishwamitra was the first person who reset the nakshatra starting from Shravana, because there was a gap of 1,000 years between the Brahma and Vishwamitra. The same fact has been narrated in Ramayana. So when we simulate in the software, so summer solstice was at Shravana Nakshatra around 13,500 BC. And interestingly, Gopata Brahmana says that Vishwamitra was the first person who observed the precession. The precession was named as Sampata. But the modern historians or even modern astronomers, they don't accept these facts. They simply say that only one the Greek astronomer who observed this somewhere in the 2nd century BC. Before that, humanity had no knowledge of precession. This is totally wrong narrative they are teaching us. And Vasishtha, because Vishwamitra, Vasishtha were both contemporaries, but Vishwamitra come out of a new theory that autumnal equinox was Ashwini Nakshatra at the same time. During the Vishwamitra's lifetime, summer solstice was at Shravana Nakshatra, but autumnal equinox was at Ashwini Nakshatra. So both are contemporaries. There was a rivalry between Vishwamitra and Vasishtha. It is well known. So both, based on that, first the zodiac, the 360-degree zodiac was almost evolved very elementary level by the Vasishtha. So we can say that very, very basic level of trigonometry, the beginning of trigonometry was at the time of Rishi Vasishtha. Thereafter,
Wait, Virji, I want to
yes,
add something here. So the
yes,
rivalry between Vashishta and Vishwamitra was only until the war which was there between them. Later on, when Vishwamitra was properly honored by Vashishta, then they
Yes.
became the greatest of friends.
Yes.
And even in front of Ramchandra, they both were friends. So
Yes.
rivalry was not whole lifetime. Rivalry was just in the initial few stages here.
Yes. Yes. That always true.
Later
Because
on,
that's
later
why.
on, Vashishta and Vishwamitra, because Vishwamitra also says that Vashishta, you are my guru. He accepts him as a teacher also.
Yes. Yes.
And Vashishta tells Vishwamitra that you are my most beloved friend, and you are also
Yes.
higher than me. So both of them, the mutual respect comes in the end.
Yes, yes. Actually, Vasishtha could give very this autumnal equinox Ashwini theory since the Vishwamitra challenged him intellectually. He
Correct.
said that you can't start from Dhanishta because already one nakshatra precession took place.
Correct.
So it's more because without rivalry, the invention cannot, because the innovations cannot happen.
Right.
So
Right.
there was nothing kind of a political rivalry or bitterness between the Vishwamitra Vasishtha, the way the leftist historians narrate. That
Yeah.
was totally wrong. It was not anything Kshatriya Brahmana rivalry ever existed.
Exactly. Exactly.
It was
That is where the Western narrations fail over there, because they establish,
yes,
or Western inspired narrations fail because they think that rivalry was lifetime.
yeah, yeah. They just because during the colonial era, their main agenda was to divide the Indians. How
Correct.
they can do the called caste lines. So
That's
what
right.
they started, though even Rigvedic era was two castes were fighting each other.
Yeah.
So this was totally a false narrative.
False
Those
narrative, and their narrative is like, because their culture many times is very barbaric, so the
yes,
enemies, unless they are finished or killed, the fight is not over. But in the Vedic culture, these are great intellectuals, so their fight
yes,
was only on like the fight was only on that army which Vashishta created to destroy Vishwamitra's army. But later on, everything was unified because Vashishta accepted, gave him the title of a Brahman, and then you know the story, entire story. For the viewers, I can say he gave him
yes,
the
yes,
title of
yes.
Brahman, and Vashishta, Vishwamitra accepted Vashishta as his preceptor also.
And finally, Vishwamitra joined one of the Saptarshis. Vishwamitra was a later entrant in the Saptarshi.
Correct.
So he has been
The last
given
tale.
so much of importance because, huh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So then the Asuras, because the Asuras were the only cousin brothers of Devas, because Asuras were not aliens or nor foreigners.
Yeah.
They were very much Indians.
Yes.
But yes, to there was a political rivalry. So what they did, Asura, since Devas started their calendar starting from Ashwini Nakshatra, when autumnal equinox used to occur at Ashwini. So 180-degree opposite, Asuras started vernal equinox. This is the reason why vernal equinox is very sacred for the Zoroastrians and others, because they were the Zoroastrians were migrated Asuras from India, and the
Correct.
Avesta was the Rig Veda, counter Veda, Asura Veda. The
Hmm.
Asura Veda only Avesta. And
Hmm.
this is the reason why Sanskrit language is so close to both.
Right.
And there are numerous references in the Brahmana text how Asuras followed their grammar and their so they generally normally because there was a rivalry. So generally the Brahmana text ridicule Asuras for their mispronunciation of the words. This
Right.
is the reason why Asuras lost their war.
Hmm.
So the so that was the how the out of India migration was the more authentic theory than the Aryan invasion on India or Aryan migration to India.
Exactly. Exactly.
Huh.
And one thing also, you took the word Indian, and just want to clarify for the users. The India is a recent word, but the entire world was one, and so Asura and Sura is just two categories of people. So,
Yeah.
so the whole the history of this is the whole planet's history, and
Yes.
definitely more advanced than anything Western was ever seen so far.
Yes. India was known as the Jambu Dvipa in the till post Vedic era, even during the Ramayana era and other.
Yeah,
Later, when Bharata started dominating and Mahabharata war took place, then a generalized Bharata name came into practice.
yeah. See, the Jambu Dweep concept is because Shaka Dweep is Europe. So the Jambudvip concept is the entire Asia, not just because the
No.
northern parts, Kyrgyzstan, and north of that were known as Uttar Kuru, very clearly mentioned in
Yes.
Mahabharata. So, and
Yes.
there is Meru and Mandarachal mountain is there
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Kyrgyzstan. So I think the Jambudvip definition is the whole Asia today.
Yes, the
Because
geography has to be, we have to redefine based on various evidences.
correct.
And entire Asia that time, because India was the cradle of civilization.
Yeah,
So there was no such boundaries because everybody was almost originated from India.
correct.
Why the Eastern Europeans have that R1A1 genome?
Yeah,
That is because the Indians migrated there. The same our Indian Asuras.
yeah.
So, but by force I have to use Indian word because there is a
In
modern
the modern
world. They
context,
will
yes.
understand only based on in
Yes, yes.
those words.
Otherwise, they were known as Aryavrat or
Ha,
Ilavrat. Many names were there.
yes,
Different.
yes. And then during the Raivata Manu, the same autumnal equinox which was as Ashwini Nakshatra that shifted to Rohini, 12,500 BC. And you can see all Rigveda, all mantras in Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, they refer to year as synonymous to Sharad Ritu, means the autumn season.
Ah,
Jivema Sharada Shatam. Why? Because the Rigvedic Indians use the calendar starting from Sharad season, autumn season.
yeah,
Then there is a story that
Margashirsha is the name of the month, right? Margashirsha?
yeah, yes. During the Rigvedic era, Ashwini Nakshatra means the Chaitra Masa was used to be the beginning of the Sharad Ritu. Right now, it is the Vasanta Ritu.
Mm.
So it's around, you can say, the almost 13 to 14,000 years later. Due to the precession, do you know the lunar months are fixed with the Earth because the moon is rotating the Earth, where the sun, the precession is only the solar months. So lunar months are static. Whether even you go to 26,000 years also, Chaitra month is when full moon is occurring in Chitra Nakshatra. It has nothing to do with the precession or any other things. So that's why every 2000 years, one lunar month will be extra in a solar calendar. So this is impossible to, you cannot reconcile, but whatever the best way possible, Indians reconciled the lunisolar calendar. But every 2000 years, we have to reset the calendar. There is no other option for us. So we cannot ensure that always the vernal equinox will be in the Chaitra Masa. It is impossible. Up to 2000 years, 3000 years you can manage, but later that you have to shift by 1 month. And this Daksha Prajapati and 27 daughters, actually this narrative or this story came up because during the Daksha Prajapati's time was the first time introduced 28 nakshatras. In that one, Mrigashira was Prajapati, 27 nakshatras. 27 plus 1, total 28 nakshatras. This was the first ever the nakshatra based calendar was introduced during the Rigvedic time. Why they have selected Mrigashira? Or because they started from the winter solstice too, because nakshatras have to be counted from the particular solstice.
Yes.
Because in the equinox, they have not perfected how to count the equinox, but you can easily identify the end of any solstice. So based on that, the zodiac can be divided into 28 nakshatras. So based on that, what I have, how to arrive the date of this Daksha Prajapati? There is a reference in the comet Kaliketu. These references are available in Parashara Tantra as well as even
Is this
Brihat Samhita of Varamira.
Yeah, is this the right thing to conclude that Halley comet was the Ketu or Rahu?
No, what happened? The Halley comet. This is the only comet the modern astronomers can accurately calculate the orbit of the Halley. And you can easily predict even going back to 10,000, 20,000 years back also. But the appearance of Halley comet, it is not the same every time. So it appears in a different way every 75 years. The Halley comet visits the Earth, but you cannot see the same shape of Halley's comet every time. This is the reason Indians identified same Halley comet in a different names also. Like same Halley's comet is Kaliketu during the Daksha's Yajna. Same Halley's comet has been viewed during the Ramayana times. He refers to it as a Dhumaketu. And the same Halley's comet has been observed by the Vriddhagarga, and he refers to it as a Gadaketu. So they named as per the appearance of the comet, because based on the position of the comet, based on with reference to the position of the sun, the Halley appears in that particular form. So based on that, they used to name it, because generally when you see a comet in a different form, then you will think that it must be some different one. But Indians could not calculate that 76 years every time the same Halley's comet is coming. That orbit was not known to the Indians. But they have observed the same comet for many times in a different forms. So that's why Parashara Tantra says that even before the same Halley's the comet Kaliketu appeared during the Daksha's Yajna, the same comet appeared 3,000 years and 9 months back also, which was named as a Maniketu. This was the same, because the nakshatra Vriddhagarga says that the same Kaliketu rises from the east, stationed in the region of Jyeshtha, Mula and Anuradha nakshatras. These we can, and there is a Kottiyuru Vaishakha Mahotsavam in Kerala. They generally celebrate the Daksha's Yajna timings during, because Vaishnavas generally celebrate Daksha Yajna. So we can because we need one absolute date of a particular event in the Rigvedic era. This we can, Daksha's Yajna is the one. Second is the Devaki Putra Krishna's birth, 1173. Last time I have discussed this. Based on this one shloka, it says that Ketuna Dhumakesostu Nakshatrani Trayodasha Bharanyadhini Vriddhani Nanuyanti Nishakaram. So the observation has been very perfectly narrated in this shloka, how that comet crossed over 13 nakshatras. So this is the way because in the day, in the year this comet was observed, on the same year Sri Krishna killed Kansa. So when Sri Krishna was around 11 years and 6 months old. Now, this is the Rigvedic period was 11,000.
As per Bhagavad Puran, it is 10 years, 7 months.
It is roughly 11 years, 6 months. It is there in the Harivansha Purana and others. Okay. So exactly some 11 years, 6 months is the time period, because the Magha, Sri Krishna killed Kansa in the Magha Amavasya, on the day of Magha Amavasya, where Sri Krishna born on the Bhadrapada Krishna Ashtami. So from Bhadrapada to Magha, around 6 months are there. So he has to complete either 10 years or 11 years. Either 10 years, 6 months or 11 years, 6 months. So this is generally 11 years, 6 months. So during the Rigvedic, the 11,500 to 10,500, during this 1000 period, all Rigvedic hymns have been recompiled or rewritten, and many suktas have been written. So we can date almost 90% of the Rigvedic rishis lived during the period 10,500 to 11,500 to 10,500 BC. Thereafter, because the just now we have discussed that Daksha, Prajapati, and his 27 daughters. So the nakshatra list was starting from Mrigashira nakshatra. But after 1,000 years, same the winter solstice shifted to Rohini. So if you refer to the certain Brahmanas and other, generally there was a narrative that why Prajapati is started living in the house of his own daughter, because Rohini was his daughter. So some started saying that why Prajapati is lusting on his own daughter. So these were only some kind of a just a poetic narratives, but actually it was a precession observed by the Rigvedic rishis. And what they did, they have reset the nakshatra starting from Rohini again. And they introduced the Magha Shukladi calendar instead of that Chaitra, because by the time 10,200, one lunar month was extra in the lunisolar calendar. That's why now Magha Shukladi calendar. Thereafter, we have a Kritikadi list. In Atharva Veda and all Brahmanas start the nakshatra list from Kritika. After 1,000 years, means 9,200 BC, the winter solstice shifted to Kritika nakshatra. And Atharva Veda's Nakshatra Sukta gives the list of Kritikadi nakshatras, and even all Shatapatha Brahmana and Taittiriya Brahmana and almost all Brahmanas give the Kritikadi list of 28 nakshatras. Then one more event took place after 9,000 BC. 9,000 to 8,000 BC, the Abhijit nakshatra, because when you divide the 360 degree, when basic trigonometry reached an advanced stage, then they realized that this 28 nakshatra division is not perfect, and they have observed that Abhijit nakshatra, its declination gradually reduced from 85 degree to 65 degree. So they have realized that they have to exclude one nakshatra. So Abhijit was excluded, and exactly 360 degree zodiac was divided into 27 nakshatras. So now you can you need not worry about the fractions. Now 13.2 degree exactly. Every nakshatra you can allot 13.2 degrees. And this same thing has been narrated in Mahabharata's Vanaparva, stating that Kritika wanted to, there was a rivalry between Kritika and Abhijit. Then finally Kritika became the big nakshatra, because there was probably a discussion was going on whether which nakshatra has to be excluded, whether Abhijit or Kritika. But since winter solstice was occurring that time at Kritika nakshatra, they accepted it. And Abhijit, since declination reduced from 85 degree to 65 degree, so they have excluded Abhijit. This is today we use all 27 nakshatra division. Surya Siddhanta, the Mayasura who wrote Surya Siddhanta, he also used 27 nakshatra. So this 27 nakshatra division of Indian astronomy has a history starting from at least 8,000 BC, means around 10,000 years old. Then one very interesting reference in Taittiriya Aranyaka, it refers to a Shishumara constellation. Shishumara is a Draco constellation, and it says that Shishumara is a Dhruva, means this Draco constellation was at celestial pole during North Pole during the Taittiriya Aranyaka's time. And what it refers to a Kashyapa nakshatra, which was part of this constellation. And it is mentioned that it does not depart from the celestial pole. The way all stars have been narrated in the Taittiriya Aranyaka, the Kashyapa was in the Mukha, because Shishumara is like a Chaturmukha Brahma, and they started like initially this one Dharma, then we have a Kashyapa, Yajna, Brahma, then Vishnu, Samvatsara, Ashwin, then Atri, Mitra, Varuna, Agni, Indra, Prajapati, and Abhaya. This is how all nakshatras have been named. and they say that this Kashyapa was at the celestial pole. If you simulate the same position of Draco constellation in the software, it gives around 10,000 or 10,500 BC to around 8,000. During that time, this Kashyapa was the celestial pole. So we can say that Taittiriya Aranyaka, other Brahmana texts were written somewhere 9,000 to 8,000 BC only. So all Brahmanas and Aranyakas have to be dated around 9,200 or 9,300 BC to 8,000 BC. This was the time. And one more interesting fact, same Shishumara constellation is mentioned in Puranas also. But Puranas, they refer to a star in the tail of the Shishumara, not in the the face of the Draco constellation. So that exactly says that the star, the Thuban was in the what we say now is Prajapati or Abhaya. This Abhaya, which was Thuban, the Abhaya was the pole star during the Mahabharata period. So that 3100, 3200 BC, Abhaya was at the North Pole. And this is the reason why, because Puranas have been recompiled by the Vyasa during the Mahabharata period. This is the reason he refers to Thuban, which is in the tail of Draco constellation, as a Dhruvatara during the Mahabharata period. And one more interesting fact, now again, today we all follow the list of nakshatras starting from Ashwini. Why? When this zodiac was fixed. This exactly what happened, the same winter solstice shifted to Ashwini nakshatra around 7,222 BC. And I have already mentioned this, that from the 7322 onwards, we started counting the yugas for the 7th Manvantara. Why? Because there is a reference in the Bhagavata Purana, Yada Chandrashcha Suryashcha Tathatishya Brihaspati Ekarasho Sameshyanti Bhavishyanti Tada Kritam. And same thing has been mentioned in the Mahabharata's Vanaparva also. So what the Bhagavata Purana and Mahabharata is saying, a conjunction of Sun, Moon, Jupiter took place in Pushya Nakshatra on the day of vernal equinox. So the date is exactly 24th May 7321 BCE. But since from Rigvedic, post Rigvedic era onward, we started using the Magha Shukladi calendar. So that way, somewhere December 7322 BCE, the first Chaturyuga of 7th Manvantara has commenced or begun in 7322 BCE. From there onwards, you can count 27 Chaturyugas, and the 28th Chaturyuga started somewhere 6782 BC, and that was the first the 28th Krita Yuga, in which Mayasura wrote Surya Siddhanta. How we can arrive this date? This I have already explained to you, because Surya Siddhanta refers to a great conjunction of all planets, Sun and Moon in the Aries, and this and there is no ambiguity at all, because generally what happens, just extracting the astronomical evidence based on an interpretation, that may be debatable, but this shloka mentioned in Surya Siddhanta is absolutely crystal clear. Even hundreds of Sanskrit experts can translate it. Everyone can come to one conclusion. That's why this shloka is very, very important, and it's a sheet anchor for the entire Yuga chronology. This great conjunction took place on 22nd February 6778 BCC on Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. This is how the entire astronomical evidences available in Rigvedic text and post-Vedic text and the Surya Siddhanta and later text, we can exactly the chronology can be fixed. Based on the Surya Siddhanta, we can now say that the Indians now started using the 1200 year yuga based on the Jovian cycle, because Mayasura introduced many new concepts. Though Asura tradition followed 3000 years yuga and Chaturyuga of 12,000 years, later what happened, this 3000 have been multiplied by 60, and then the length of yuga became 1,80,000 years in Asura tradition, and Chaturyuga had almost 7,20,000 years later, in a later period. And same Surya Siddhanta of Mayasura has been a brief of the Mayasura Surya Siddhanta has been given in Varahamihira's Pancha Siddhantika. This is the reason the Surya Siddhanta available today and the Surya Siddhanta, the brief of Surya Siddhanta written by Varahamihira, both are different. So presently Mayasura Surya Siddhanta is not available today. Only very brief of Mayasura Surya Siddhanta is available in Varahamihira's Surya Siddhanta, and Varahamihira says that according to Mayasura Surya Siddhanta, a yuga had 1,80,000 years only. But the available Surya Siddhanta, actually written by Latadeva around 3102 BCE, what he did, he used the Deva tradition, and though he followed the Mayasura Surya Siddhanta, but he used the concepts of the astronomy of Brahma Siddhanta. So this is how the presently available Surya Siddhanta was written by Latadeva based on Mayasura Surya Siddhanta. The available Surya Siddhanta was not the original Surya Siddhanta written by Mayasura. So this is how the chronology comes up to the 28th Krita Yuga. Thereafter, after 1 year, that 6777 BCE, it was a very major turning point in Indian astronomy. Why? Because the Mayasura introduced many new concepts to the Indian astronomy. That is, first, Jovian cycle, because there is no evidence of using of Jovian cycle in entire post-Vedic literatures, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and even Rigveda. And second is 60-year cycle, what we use Prabhava, Vibhava, that 60-year cycle, and the 7-day concept, because the 22nd February 6778, the Surya Siddhanta introduced first weekday. So we can say that entire world, the weekday tradition, whatever the all ancient civilizations had the concept of 7-day, but finally they borrowed from the Surya Siddhanta only. And similarly, there was, under the influence of Surya Siddhanta, the Indian Paitamaha Siddhanta, means the Vedic calendar, the 5-year yuga system. So the calendar remained for the 5-year, but yuga length has been increased to 1200 years. So now there was a greater responsibility on the astronomer to count the this elapsed years. So for counting of elapsed years, they came up with a novel idea of Saptarshi cycle. So that every 100 years they just allotted one nakshatra. Though many texts other than astronomers, they say that one Saptarshi will remain for 100 years in a one nakshatra. Actually, it's not anything astronomical fact. It actually to count the elapsed years. So how I can remember that how many hundreds of years have been elapsed based on the nakshatras. So this tradition was commenced in 677 BC. So the Indian Saptarshi cycle was introduced in 677 BCE, considering the Ashwini nakshatra, because by that time we all started Ashwinyadi nakshatra list. So the first 100 years, 677 BC to 6677 BC, that 100 years was assigned to Ashwini nakshatra. This is how every year, that's why this is the reason why Vriddha Garga and even many other texts say that during the Yudhishthira's time, Saptarshis were in Magha nakshatra. You start counting the nakshatras, assigning one nakshatra for every 100 years. In 3177 to 3077, this 100 years, During that 100 years, Saptarshis were in Magha Nakshatra. So this is how even the 5-year Yuga calendar has been reformed to ensure that now the intercalation is not just 2 months in every 5 years. Instead of that, they started following the Jovian cycle. So now the intercalation based on Jovian cycle in a 5-year calendar, this Siddhanta was called a Paitamaha Siddhanta. But the Brahma Siddhanta, they understood the importance of Chaitra Shukladi calendar. So Brahma Siddhanta is the offshoot of Paitamaha Siddhanta. They just discarded the Magha Shukladi calendar. Instead of that, they started using the same Chaitra Shukladi calendar, but the epoch was different. That is 25th January 6773 BCE. Even today, we follow the 60-year cycle. The Prabhava year was 6773 BCE, not 6778 BCE, because that was the tradition of Asuras. So the Brahma Siddhanta was the first who introduced in the Devas astronomy, considering the 6773 BCE as the first Samvatsara. So now how to date the all astronomical Siddhantas. The first Siddhanta was Mayasura Surya Siddhanta. Before that, we never had this problem. We generally followed the that 5-year Yuga Vedanga Jyotisha of Lagadha. Mayasura Surya Siddhanta 6778 BC. Then Paitamaha Siddhanta 67777 BC. From the Paitamaha Siddhanta started using the Jovian cycle as well as 1200 years Yuga and the Saptarshi cycle. Then we have the Brahma Siddhanta. They started using the Prabhava Samvatsara from the 6773 BCE. This is the reason during the Rigvedic period or Mahabharata period, 3173 BCE. And Vasishta Siddhanta, this around 5977 BC. Then we have the Romaka Siddhanta. Generally, the modern historians, whether Indian or the Western, they generally think that Romaka Siddhanta is actually Western theory. The same theory has been borrowed by the Indians. It is not true. Actually, the Romakas, even Mahabharata refers to Romakas. Even Antarkhi, their capital city, actually the so-called Antioch city in the Syria, that was called as Antarkhi. There the Romakas. So the Romaka Siddhanta traveled from this Siddhanta. The followers of Romaka Siddhanta migrated from India to the Syria and other period. Then they introduced this 95-year cycle. Actually, Dr. Subhash Kak established that the cycle of 95 years was actually established by Yajnavalkya in Shatapada Brahmana. The same cycle has been adopted by Romaka Siddhanta, and the 19-year cycle, the famous Metonic cycle, actually it is 1/5 of the 95 years. In the 95 years, there is a 5 cycles of 19 years. So the 19-year cycle is just a offshoot or a byproduct of this cycle of 95 years. So that's why Romaka Siddhanta was very, very important. And actually, we can say entire Alexandrian, Babylonian, and Egyptian astronomy had actually they borrowed many things from Romaka Siddhanta. Then we have the Yavana Siddhanta. This Yavana Siddhanta, actually Yavanas, the origin of the Yavanas is also a controversial issue. But according to the Rigvedic and other historical texts, Yavanas actually were the followers, they were the cursed sons of one of the Yadu dynasty. So, and when they migrated from India, they took the Mayasura Surya Siddhanta, and based on that, Yavana Siddhanta was evolved. And this is the reason why the Greeks, the most ancient astrological, the table, that is also based on Surya Siddhanta. And Paulisha Siddhanta, generally modern historians speculate that Paulisha Siddhanta is also originated in West, but actually that's not true, because in 3101 BC, the same Latadeva who wrote Surya Siddhanta based on Mayasura's Surya Siddhanta, he wrote a commentary on Paulisha Siddhanta and Romaka Siddhanta. It means Paulisha and Romaka Siddhantas are ancient than the Mahabharata. So this is the reason why Romaka and Paulisha have Indian origins, because both follow the finally Surya Siddhanta only. Then Paitamaha Siddhanta, they had two traditions. One was the early tradition, then later Vaishnava tradition, especially in the south. The Alvar saints followed this Vaishnava tradition. So what they did, they fixed this Prabhava Samvatsara in 4326 BCE. This is the reason they take during the Mahabharata period 3126 BC as a Prabhava. Based on this Surya Siddhanta, the Latadeva wrote Surya Siddhanta, and he expunged 1 year, and he says this is the reason why 3102 is a Vijaya Samvatsara. Because if we are following the 60-year cycle, then first year of Kali Yuga has to be Prabhava, but it's a Vijaya in the tradition of Latadeva Surya Siddhanta. But in Brahma Siddhanta, it's Prabhava, because Brahma Siddhanta follows 3173 BCE as the Kali Yuga year. So actually, we cannot say that Indians had the one epoch of Kali Yuga. In the 32nd century, during the Mahabharata period, already there was a buzz that Kali Yuga has commenced. Since there was a 2-3 different calendrical traditions, like there was a tradition of Brahma Siddhanta, it's because finally Yuga is a calendar. So the Brahma Siddhanta's Kali Yuga calendar began 3173 BCE, whereas the Paithama Siddhanta, which followed the Saptarshi cycle, based on the Saptarshi calendar, 3177 BCE was the first year of Kali Yuga. But in the Vaishnava tradition of Paithama Siddhanta, the Kali Yuga began 3126 BCE. Then finally, the Latadeva wrote his Surya Siddhanta considering the conjunction of various planets in Revati Nakshatra, and based on that, he fixed the Kali Yuga epoch 3102 BC. So if you see, in a 4 different traditions, 4 different epochs, but finally, somewhere in the 2nd century BC, we started following the Latadeva Surya Siddhanta only. So after 2nd century BCE, Indians generally referred 3102 BC as the epoch of Krita Yuga, Kali Yuga. Then Parashara Siddhanta, actually these both Siddhantas became popular only in the beginning of Kali Yuga. The same thing has been written. So Parashara Siddhanta and Maharyabhata Siddhanta. Then dating of Aryabhatiyam, it is a very the modern historians date Aryabhata somewhere in 5th century AD. But Aryabhata has no idea of the Shakaira at all. First. Second, Aryabhata, the 3400 years, 600 years has to be commenced from the 6773 BC onwards. If you count that, Aryabhata was born somewhere 3173 BC, not the 476 AD, the way we generally being taught in our textbooks. So this is how the Indian astronomy evolved, this Siddhantic astronomy, because before that Vedic astronomy, after that this is the Siddhantic Indian astronomy evolved up to Mahabharata era. Thereafter our Indian astronomy is more following the same, and we started perfecting it. Then finally realized that Surya Siddhanta was the most accurate Siddhanta, because it follows a conjunction, because following a conjunction is very important to calculate the mean motions and the calculation of the orbits of all planets, and finally translating into a very accurate calendar. So this is how the Siddhantic astronomy was evolved. So Aditya ji.
Thank you so much. It looks so wonderful, and it looks pretty, very comprehensive research. And if I ask you the references from this research, what would you say the references coming from?
Yes, this all references I have provided in my books. Actually, sharing on a slides, and because the your show is only for 40 minutes or 60, 40 minutes, so it's difficult to say. But I can present each siddhanta wise how a siddhanta can be dated,
Okay,
because there is a the planetary astronomy began only from the date of Surya Siddhanta. Before that, planets were, though we Indians observed the planets, they knew it, but it was not the part of the calendrical astronomy.
correct.
Planets became part of calendrical astronomy starting from Surya Siddhanta.
Right.
So this is how there are these are the chronological footprints are available in our various astronomical texts. If we meticulously, if we can date that, then we can unfold the such a great antiquity of Indian civilization and how much we have contributed to the world. India was not just Vishwa Guru is not just some kind of a mythological term. It's actually Satyological term. It was really India taught the world the astronomy, basic sciences, mathematics, whatnot. This was the reason why India used to contribute up to 20 to 23%, even up to 18th century.
Absolutely right.
That is the because we ruled the world with the knowledge, not by
Yes.
force or by military.
By military also we ruled, but
Yes.
that fact is disregarded. But military
Yes.
also we ruled because Yudhishthir used to extract taxes from all
Yeah,
over
yeah,
the
yeah.
world,
Yes, 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 yes.
and
That's true.
so people used to. The capital of the world was Indraprasth, and
Yeah.
which was earlier called Khandaprasth, but the same place
Yes.
was the capital of the world. So thank you
Yes.
so much, Vedvi Rareji, and viewers who are watching it live. You can also see it a recorded one on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and keep it for your records. It is always our attempt to bring great scholars like Vedvi Rareji on the call, and not to prove that Indians were better, but just to show the real history of the world, which is not told by most of the academics, whether it's Indian or Western. So thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaskar.